Good afternoon, class. This afternoon your task will be to do an isometric freehand, I repeat, freehand sketch of the HammerToy. The image that's shown below is being placed onto an isometric grid, and what you will do this afternoon is you will initially draw it on a faint version of it like so. And this is to allow you to get the broad idea, and then thereafter you will then go ahead and draw it on a plain grid paper. I'm going to be using a thick felt tip pen here to make life easier for you to see it on the video, but you can use a regular pencil to do this. When we're drawing this isometric, we start off with the isometric axis, and I'm turning the paper and allowing my arm to slide up on the grid in that direction. There, that's at an angle of 30 degrees. And then I'm turning the paper again, and this time I'm getting it so that that's more or less horizontal, and I'm drawing in my line going back in that direction. That of course is 30 degrees in that orientation, and then I'm fully turning the paper round to allow me to draw in the upright axes for this isometric grid. Now I'm ready to do the front face here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn round, get myself aligned with my existing line, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 5.5 squares up, and I'm going to draw another line there. And similarly, I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 squares up. I'm going to draw a line up in that direction. Please observe the turning of the paper is quite important. Now, I'm going to get myself aligned with this baseline here and move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's forming the first face of the isometric. Now I'm turning to this orientation here, get myself aligned with this initial line here, and then draw in that line and draw in this line. Turning again, get myself aligned with this line and slide my arm up and draw the back edge there. Now that forms my initial isometric. So, continuing from where I left off with my isometric crate, I'm now going to turn around and start adding in some of the detail. So I'll get myself aligned with that front edge, and I'm going to draw in the detail for the back, the front face and the back face. And then I'm going to work my way up, following that direction, to draw this line and this line. And then I need to estimate where the back corner would be. So what I'm going to do is faintly, I'll switch to a different pencil, faintly follow that direction there. I'm going to drop this line down here to locate the corner, and where these two intersect I can run that back the way, so I'll darken this in for just now. And that completes, well, almost, sorry, there's one more line that needs to go in here, and that completes this stage. Right, this time I'm going to add in some of the detail with the notches that are taken out. I'm going to turn my piece of paper round and I'm going to get myself aligned here, here, here and here, making sure that these are in line. Turn my piece of paper round again, get myself aligned with the bottom edge. I can draw in that one there and there. Let's repeat that process at the top with the back one. I've got one line going vertically up and down there. And I've got another one happening down here. Make sure that that's vertical. Turn round, get myself aligned the back edge, draw that in there. Now we add a little bit of depth here. We have that line coming back there, and we haven't put the curves on yet, so we're still working within the isometric crate. Projecting back the way here and straight up there. Oh, I need a line across the top there and there and there and there. That completes the next part of the video. In the previous video I made a little mistake. I missed out that little bit of red line and I should have extended this purple line on a little bit more. Now we're ready to start putting some fillets onto this. So we're going to start curving these edges a little bit there. That will have the impact of reducing how far up that corner happens. I'm moving my arm to accommodate this. I should be turning the paper to allow you to see that. So I put a fillet in here and a fillet here, curving that off. I'm going to put a fillet on this corner and this corner, run that across to there, fillet in that corner. Similarly at the top here and at the bottom, there and there, and at the top and round that corner there, corner there as well. And at the back edge, we've got a corner on that one and that one, corner that one, there and there, coming down in that direction. Put a corner on that back edge, square that off there, and then the bottom corner here, corner here and corner there. And that essentially completes that part of the drawing. Oh, I forgot that fillet there. Right. Now this time we're going to do the drawing without the object underneath. I have marked the start point of my isometric and I'm going to put the grid on like I did previously. So I'm going to run up in that direction, turning the piece of paper. I'm going to run up on this one and turning the piece of paper. I'm going to run up on the vertical, and then let's start dividing that up a little bit. We were 5.5 squares up this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Turn round and project following the grid structure, following this existing grid. And then on this direction we were 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to there, and following the grid structure. And as for the height, we were 7 up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, turning and making sure that we follow the grid structure, turning and following the grid structure, and following parallel with the grid there, and turning again on there to form the initial crate. Now this time we're going to create the framework for this. We'll use it to be a little bit thicker here. We have got our first line going up for that edge for the front face, and then the other one there. So that forms the rectangle for the end, and similarly using a full grid there we have got this one. Now I could faintly put in this bottom, put it in hidden detail just now so we can see where the back, that could have been a little bit further over, we'll fix that later on. So that's the back and front ends done, and then we can move up 3 squares, 1, 2, 3 to there, running up 2 lines there, and we can run that through in this direction till we meet the back edge and through to there, so we can darken in these ones that we did in hidden detail. Now we can see the beginnings of this. Now I'm going to add in the notches taken out of this. So I'm turning the piece of paper and I'm taking out the rectangular shape, staying in line with the grid. Let's do this back edge there. I've made this a little bit wider than the original, so it's working on the grid, so it's easier to follow. And the one at the bottom, which will be less visible, like so. Next stage is to put the fillets on, so I'm putting my curves on here and here, which will allow me to create that shape here and here and back up there, curving around, and that's knocking a little bit of the corner off. Fillet on here, running that through, and at the bottom put my fillet on, which takes a bit of the corner off, drawing that green line in a little bit so we can see it coming up against the purple. Fillet running around there and there. Now at this front face here, we've got a fillet going on there and curving down that way. Knocks a little bit of the corner off, and then we've introduced our fillet there and there and there and there, and at that back corner knocks a little bit of the corner off. And here knocks a little bit of this corner off. Here, and fillet there and there and there. And that forms the basic shape for the HammerToy with the use of a grid. This time we're going to do the freehand sketch of the HammerToy, but we are not going to be using any grid paper. So the bed and the ends is what we plan to end up with here. We are going to go through the same process of creating our grid structure, our crate, into which we will add the detail. But as I say, we won't have the benefit of a grid sitting behind us. I've changed the sizes a little bit here just to make life a little bit easier, so the final thing might be a little bit different from the original. It is a sketch after all. So what we're going to kick off with is the isometric axes. I'm going to run a ground line and turn it round and put my vertical up, and then turning the piece of paper to get my 30-degree angle in one direction, turning the piece of paper and to get the other one. If that's not spot on 30, that's okay, as long as it isn't too steep. Now, we were a distance of about, just check, 5.5 squares. We don't actually have 5.5 squares to measure anymore, so I'm just going to estimate the distance up the way. And I've turned the piece of paper and I'm running in that vertical plane, and I'm going to draw a line going up there. And this time, on this axis, we're a distance of about 10, thereabouts. And I'm going to draw. Now, it is important that we recognize that these three lines are parallel with each other. The overall height of this was 7, which is a little bit more than the distance that way, so it's a wee bit taller. Estimate a little bit taller there. Turn the piece of paper, get yourself a line with there. It is important to recognize that this line and this line should be parallel. Turn the piece of paper, and this time we're going to get ourselves lined up with this line. And we're going to slide up and we're going to draw that line, which needs to be parallel with this line here. Turning the piece of paper again, we've got ourselves aligned with this one. So this back line needs to be parallel with that front line. Turning the piece of paper once again, get ourselves lined up with that one, and draw that line in there. That forms our initial crate. Having got to this stage now, I'm going to use the same colour to take off the front, or create the front part, the front end, making sure that I'm running parallel with the lines I've got there. So that's forming the front end, and then get myself parallel with that back edge. I'm going to draw that line in there. Get myself parallel with this edge here. I'm going to draw that line in there, correcting as I go along any errors that I generate. And you might recall that previously I had lightly put in that back line, which I'm going to do this as well, which we'll use later on. So that forms, I could have taken that a little bit further back, I think. That forms the beginning of both ends. Now, lining up with this edge here, I'm going to draw in the bed. Turning that round in this direction, the bed runs till it meets that one, and then getting ourselves lined up with there, running back to there. Now, what I did previously was I took out the notches, so I'm going to get myself lined up with that edge there and mark in where the notches are going to go. Turn it round, making sure that that's running parallel with that, and there. Take that parallel with that one, and down that way, parallel there and there, and running in there. Similarly at the back, well, I could transfer that size across to there, and this one, drop it down, making sure I'm running parallel with that edge there. Pick up the depth and run in there. Oops. And down there and then there, and running that down till it meets the underside there. Just make that more vertical, and then going off that way. And this time I'm going to introduce the fillets here and here. Run in my fillet there and there, which knocks off the edge a little bit. Run in my fillet in this direction and back up over the top there, and back down there, which knocks a little bit off of there. Introducing my fillet to this bottom corner, which knocks a little bit off of there. And then my fillet running here and then back up that way. And this front face, we've got the fillet going on there and then round that way. And we have a fillet happening there and there, which curves back there and then round, knocking a little bit off of that corner. Fillet there and there and there and there and there and there. Little bit of a fillet happening there, which takes off a bit of that corner there. Draw this in so that the green stands out a little bit more. And that forms the basis of it, drawn in felt tip. And now I'll repeat this process on video with a regular pencil. This time I'm going to sketch the same item but not using the felt tips, and use a plain pencil. Should be using a 2B for this. Produce my initial asymmetric origin there, running round, get myself vertically aligned, and then sliding up to do the back edge, and get myself aligned with there, making sure that that's running parallel, making sure that I'm running parallel there and at that back edge, maybe slipping off a little bit there, working upside down now. There we go. And then round here. So there's my initial crate, which I can then start to divide up to form the ends. I'll put these lines in lightly just now so I can see where that end is going to be. And then I can run the bed in, get myself parallel there and there. Run that across the way till I meet that one. That forms my initial part of the sketch. And then I can start taking out the notches like we did before, making sure that I'm running parallel with that edge. And there. Oh, no, it needs to turn around a little bit there, I think. And parallel with that edge there, draw that one in. Let's follow that through to the back edge. So we've got 1, 2 there. Drop that down. So there's where that notch is going to go. And then we've got the corresponding one happening just below it here. Making sure that I'm running in the right direction. Making sure that I'm vertical enough. Going on there. And then what's left is to add in the fillets. There and there. Curve that a bit more. Taking a little bit off the corner there. Got a bit of a fillet going on there and there. And up there. Keeping that parallel with that edge. A fillet on that corner there. And then I'll run in my fillet down in this corner here, which knocks a little bit off over there, curve just at the back. Have a fillet going on there and there. Put my fillet on the leading edge here and here, carving back around there and there. Similarly with this one. Take a little bit of that corner off, making sure that I'm running parallel with that edge. And I've got my fillet going on here and here. Here. Put my fillet on this corner and here, so I'll take a little bit of that off. So there we've got the initial bed and ends of the HammerToy. After that, we might be interested in starting to add in some of the detail for the holes. So for example, if I wanted a square hole going on here, then I would draw the square, making sure that I run parallel to this plane, this line and this line, and then I can drop down the way there to form the hole there. Okay, and then if I were to do a circular one, I might do a similar process. But this time I would be finding the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock points, and the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock points, and generating a curve that fits inside that square. Okay, but then we'll be adding in the other objects afterwards, which is an exercise for next week. Right, that should keep you busy.